Let's talk Apple Silicon update and the new computer that they launched and the new display. You want to do the chip first? I guess that makes the most sense.
Yeah, let's do, because I feel like the chip kind of is what this is all based on, and honestly, what we're most excited about.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so we already knew. We set the stage. We got the M1 chip, and that filled out Mac Mini, MacBook Air, Mac, iMac. Great chip, very like baseline, but obviously very capable for almost everyone's regular use.
It's weird calling that baseline.
It's really good.
It is. Yeah,
it's really good.
Crazy
we
good.
reviewed it. It's out there. That's the baseline stuff. Then we got, and it's in a MacBook Pro. That's how good it is. 13-inch MacBook Pro. So then we got M1 Max and M1 Pro. So M1 Pro being a step up and M1 Max being the highest end. And those show up in MacBook Pros. And this thing right here, the 16-inch MacBook Pro that I'm using with the M1 Max chip in it, monster chip. Yeah. Amazing. Incredible efficiency, great battery life, but also it's outperforming literally iMac Pros, some Mac Pros out there, especially in Apple's native apps. Incredible stuff. M1 Ultra is the name of the new chip that just got announced.
Yeah, let's start right there because...
With the name?
Yeah, because it's a name we've debated about for a while. I guess we've been talking about the Mac Pro chip and what its name was going to be.
Right.
This is not quite there, but is obviously the upgrade. I think people were thinking M1X. You were thinking M2 for a little bit because we weren't sure like if this was going to keep the M1 line. So we're on the M1 line, M1 Ultra.
I was thinking it might have been M1 Extreme or something. Like that sounds like something Apple would call it.
Yeah, but there's Intel Extreme stuff, so I feel like they're going to try and stay away from that. That's my guess why they wouldn't go
see them
extreme.
Like leaning in. Like, yeah, we do Extreme too, and it's way better than yours.
There's clearly some things they don't care about and just pretend other companies don't exist.
I mean, Samsung makes an Ultra.
Exactly.
Really
Samsung had a pretty funny tweet that was just like, green? Ultra? We're flattered by the...
Nice. Yeah. Nicely done. Wow, Samsung getting a little shout out. Yeah. Well played.
I just don't like the name, to be honest. No real reason why. I just don't think it's that fun.
You know, it's funny. I never liked M1 Max either because we're talking about M1 Max and a Mac with M1 Max. Like it's not a good name.
True. At least it's not a tongue twister.
Yeah. So I got over the names and how I don't like any of them a long time ago because the chips are so good. I'm like, whatever, fine. So the M1 Ultra is basically two M1 Maxes together. We've been hearing about this die design and how they're going to have essentially they're going to cut out. It's like, imagine it's funny because it's not a square anymore. It's a rectangle.
Well, now it's a rectangle.
Yeah. So it's a rectangular chip with a super fast, super high bandwidth connection between them. 2.5 terabytes per second between the two chips should basically allow them to communicate with zero latency, and the whole system sees it as one mega chip.
It was like Exhibit was like, yo dog, we heard you like M1 Max. Why don't you have two?
We put a pair in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. Dave 2D brought this up in his video. Like there are dual socket systems. They've been out there for a long time. You can actually get a motherboard and put two CPUs on it and two coolers and run a system with two chips. But having the system see it all as one is way more efficient, and it's just a better way to do it.
Yeah.
So we saw this coming, but it's here. It's massive. We get the crazy speeds. It's a 20-core CPU, 16 of those being performance cores, 4 of those being high-efficiency cores. And there's a 48-core or 64-core GPU version of this.
Yep.
And I think it's a 64 or 128 gigs of unified memory.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty sick. That's a lot of big numbers.
They are big numbers.
They did the whole graph thing they always do, which is they show not really well labeled graphs.
Did you notice the graph is always the same length away no matter what? It would be like a quarter of it is always the competitor, but then the top bar is like 2 times faster, 3.7 times faster. Yeah. It's always the same amount.
It's the same shape of a graph every time.
Yeah,
but they'll like change the asymptote so they'll change the axis to say 100. But like, what test are you running? Yeah. Like, what benchmark? What app is this even?
Yeah.
I did see the fine print, and they mentioned certain GPUs by name. RTX 3060 Ti is going to be more efficient than that chip. It's going to draw 200 watts less power than an RTX 3090 at the same performance.
Yeah, a lot of the graphs were also like super specific. Like you said, it's like outperforms blah, blah, blah at this much less power. Yeah. And so I don't know. They're not one-to-one which they never really are. But
basically my take from this was like, okay, I can't really learn much from Apple's hand-picked tests. But what I did pick up is that they compared this frequently to the highest end iMac Pro and the Mac Pro. Mm-hmm. And obviously it's called the Mac Studio that this computer is hosting this M1 chip in. We'll talk about the computer in a second.
Yeah.
but this chip is actually more capable in a lot of things than any chip they've ever put in any Mac. And that is like a question I was asking in my video. Is just like, okay, we've seen the event. Is this the highest end chip they need to make? And the answer turned out to be no. And we'll get to that in a second.
Well, they also did though mention that this is the full M1 lineup. Right around here, they did say
so.
that.
There's some naming specifics that we can get into. We'll probably talk about that with the Mac Pro.
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that.
But bottom line is this M1 Ultra chip seems to be awesome, and I cannot wait to start testing it. That being said, the computer that it's in is called the Mac Studio.
Mm-hmm.
So they announced the Mac Studio alongside the new monitor, which is the Studio display. And it basically looks like a super thick Mac Mini. I'm giving that about 4 Cs. It's like several Mac Minis stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, 3.7 inches tall, which seems really small, but like I guess the regular Mac Mini is probably only like an inch and a half.
It's like an inch and a half. Yeah. So it's looking like it ate a bunch of other Mac Minis, basically.
Right? They Kirby'd another Mac Mini.
Yeah, essentially. So it's tall. It's got these heat sinks. I think basically half the internal volume is heat sink.
Yeah, I actually got a little excited off the start because so you know how it's pretty much like a rounded square and then on the bottom it has a circle that's all the vents.
Mm-hmm.
So they started when they announced it with this like crazy close up of a bunch of holes and circular, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're bringing the trash can back." And I literally said it out loud and got excited. And then I realized it was just the bottom that you almost never see. And I got
somebody who made that render was probably thinking that the whole time, like somebody's going to think it's a Mac Pro circle again.
You got me if you're watching.
But it is actually a remarkably similar thermal design. It's taking in cool air from the bottom, which the trash can Mac Pro did. It cools all the components and then exhausts hot air out the top, or in this case, the back. But this is Apple's own silicon. This isn't a huge GPU inside.
Exactly.
It's very different.
I think that's the biggest thing because when you had the trash can Mac Pro and it started having problems, it was very specifically the GPU that was starting to cause issues.
Spitting flames, man.
I mean, and jamming that inside that small, where it only had vents on the top and bottom, and the outside was like literally completely shut. And
it never
sealed.
stood a chance. Looking back, it was insane. So this Mac Studio, it's got a bunch of real ports, got a bunch of Thunderbolt ports on the back. It's got 10 gig Ethernet, HDMI, 2 USB-A ports still. It's got the high impedance headphone jack from the MacBook Pro, it looks like. And there's front I/O also.
Yeah.
Front ports. I think that's nice because this is clearly something that goes on your desk. And there's an SD card reader right on the front of the thing.
Yep. Awesome.
Thank you. The Mac Mini always had it on the back. That always drove me insane. And they still put the power button on the back. Fine, I can reach around and hit that. But if I just want to hit the SD card slot right in the front, love that. So that's in the front along with 2 USB-C ports. If you get the M1 Ultra version, those are 2 Thunderbolt ports.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know. Any thoughts on this design? I mean, it's clearly extremely small for the amount of power it's kicking out.
That's what I think is really cool about it. And in a very specific scenario like here where people make fun of your cable management fairly often because you're...
Oh, this is huge for me.
So, we have the Mac Pros. I'm someone who put it on my desk, but it takes up a large amount of my desk.
Yes.
You have double monitors, you have big studio speakers, like it cannot fit on your desk. So you have your computer on the ground all the time, which means all of your wires always have to have slack for being able to go to sitting to standing.
That's something people don't understand.
Yep.
I want to just bring up the fact that PewDiePie roasted my setup because all he did was see the disc in the standing position and saw all those cables dangling there and said, Marques, what's good with the wires?
Yep.
Bro, it's impossible. I mean, you can do it, but you spend a serious amount of cable management. And as someone who switches computers every couple of years, I'm not trying to do that. Just trying to make that work. So yes, with this, it'll be on my desk and I'll have the cleanest setup you've ever seen. No wires anywhere.
I'm very excited. Looking forward to seeing it. But the fact that you can literally, like, you could stack that between your 2 monitors right now, have all the wires.
I think that's the move.
Yeah, it's going to look so much nicer. It is crazy you can get that much power out of something that small that can fit on your desk. I feel like 12 South or something's going to do. It'd be really see if they made some sort of mount to go onto the back of monitors because that would be really sick. That's what I always love doing with small form factor computers.
Yeah.
This is a little thicker though, maybe not work.
When you said 12 South, I actually pictured them making like a tray.
Wait, so are you thinking of like the old iMac stands we had?
Kinda.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm picturing a tray because the one thing we'll talk about the monitor in a second, but people are like, why is there no wireless charger in the stand? Apple was never going to do that. But what if they just made a tray where you put the Mac there you got like a wireless charger, a spot to charge your phone maybe, and then like some spots to hold like SD cards and stuff. And it's just all neatly in this little metal tray with felt on the inside. So it's soft.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I could see them making that. But yes, a backpack type thing where you put it on the back of a monitor.
Yeah.
It can fit.
Do you remember our iMac stands for the iMac Pro? It was kind of like, it was basically like a little box where since the iMac isn't height adjustable, it would like boost it up a little bit. You and I are both tall. That helps immensely. And then it would give you like a little slot to store some things under.
Yeah.
But I could see 12 South making a case where you could scoot the new studio display stand on top of it safely.
By the way, 12 South, we'll take a solid 10% of all of these ideas when you do eventually come out with them, because clearly we're the only ones who have these ideas.
Yep.
No, yeah, I like it a lot. Something also, since I put out this video, Dave2D, again, he's a sleuth. He's all over apple.com. Found that the M1 Ultra version of this Mac Studio weighs 2 pounds more than the M1 Max version. Thought that was curious. And the two possible speculations we had were either number one, they've done some sort of a different heatsink design in the M1 Ultra version, or number two, there's just a bigger power supply in the M1 Ultra version, which weighs more because it's an internal power supply.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting random quirk. If you're thinking about putting it behind the monitor as a backpack, you should know if you get the 7-pound version versus the 5-pound version. I guess that should matter a little bit.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I cannot wait. I'm sure he's going to sleuth into that further and try and figure out what exactly it is.
Yeah, we're going to get both. I don't know if, I'm guessing they pop open the same way a Mac Mini does. The bottom part, you just unscrew it basically and you can look inside, but we'll see.
Can we actually talk about that a little bit? Because this was something right after they announced the studio, they said or actually I think it was right before, they said there's 3 main things we want to accomplish with the Mac Mini or the Mac Studio: performance, connectivity, and modularity.
And finally, many want a modular system and display so they can create their perfect setup.
And the modularity thing made me think we were getting a Mac Pro. And then the Mac Mini comes out, which I think we all know is like not exactly what we would consider modular. And after that, he did say, many want a modular system and display so they can create their perfect setup. It kind of feels like all they're saying is you get to choose your own monitor.
That's the only thing I could say is modular about this.
But in that, it also does say modular system, which feels like the system, not including externals or peripherals. So that part confused me.
That part feels like a lie.
Exactly.
This is a computer that is not designed to be user serviceable. The 128 gigs of video memory you can never change once you buy it.
Yeah.
All of this like spec changing, like you can't do anything once you get it. I mean, other than like change a fan out or something if it breaks, but like that's not even on you. It's not modular at all.
No.
Yeah, you can change your own display.
Yeah.
BYOD.
I thought that was an interesting word
I would never use modular to describe this. Hey, if you like that clip, thanks for listening. Make sure you listen to the whole episode where we talk endlessly about a ton of Apple stuff this week. Welcome to Apple Weekly. We had a good time this week. I just wanted to step in here at the end of the clip and make sure you hit that subscribe ultra button.
Just subscribe mega button.
Very important.
I want 4 times the amount of subscribers, not 2 times.
Oh, that's true. So it subscribes you 4 times if you hit the mega button. Only twice if you hit
ultra. There's only one way to find out, and I think it's to press the button.
So what I want you to do now is hit subscribe, then hit unsubscribe, then hit subscribe again, then hit unsubscribe, then hit subscribe again, then hit unsubscribe, and then when you hit subscribe a 4th time, you will have mega subscribed.
Our channel's gonna get banned for manipulation.
Nope, that's the only way to do it. Do it now. See you guys next week.